Hi, I'm Tyler-kun Williams. Just a fair reminder, if you are a fan of Kazuchika Okada or you really love New Japan Pro Wrestling, you think they can't do no wrong, I implore you to please continue on. Yeah, I know you're surprised. I'm not one of these YouTubers like to tell you to stop watching a video if you're not like what I'm going to say. I ask you to please continue watching, get another perspective on why what New Japan is about to do is probably one of the dumbest decisions they've ever made. Hey, what is up, you guys? It is Tyler. Welcome back to the Tyler Williams channel, and welcome to another video. Yes, guys, I am back from my vacation. I took about a good 4 days off. I was out of state, you know, chilling by the boardwalk, chilling on the beach. Probably got a little dark. I can't really tell. I'm sure if I rolled up my sleeve, you probably could see the tan line. But that being said, I'm finally back, and I'm making a new video. One thing I did not expect to come back to was the announcement of New Japan Pro Wrestling creating a new championship. At first when I heard this, I'm like, okay, this sounds cool. I like the idea of a new championship in New Japan. And then like 5 seconds later I said, why introduce a new title when you still have one more title that you haven't yet for some reason acknowledged that even exists on the programming? I'll talk about that in another video though. So immediately I'm like, introducing a new championship, interesting. So then I go to YouTube and I see that Kazuchika Okada is the one introducing the championship. And then I remembered something. Okada's been saying for the last few days that he's been having a special announcement that's been pending because New Japan hasn't approved of it yet, or he has to run it by New Japan. And immediately I'm like, okay, let's see what Okada has to say. Maybe it's an announcement of a new tournament, but it's the announcement of a new title. And I'm already kind of questioning it because Okada is the one introducing the title. So I'm like, is he going after this champion? And here's why I'm going to get into the whole, if you guys are ready for the Okada hate bandwagon, then here it is. Because apparently a lot of people just think that my entire channel is me shitting on Okada. So here's the part where you're probably looking forward to. This does make sense, but at the same time it makes me dislike Okada even more, because if you watched a previous Sengoku Lord post-match interview, Okada, and I said this before in previous videos and he solidified it here, Okada blatantly admitted that I don't know why, but he basically admitted that he hates the IC championship. This man does not like the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. I don't understand why. Literally in that interview, he basically scoffs at the fact of being a double champion and that he feels bad for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. And that pisses me off so much. You are the ace of the promotion. You are the leader. You represent this company, and you are actively burying the IC championship when you say this. I don't understand why New Japan allows him to do this. It makes the championship look so much worse. And what makes him a hypocrite is that he was the one who was going after the championship in the first place. Now, at the same time, if you actually look back at some post-match interviews leading up to New Japan Cup, Okada really never referenced wanting to go after the IC championship. It's always been about either the heavyweight championship or he didn't reference the championship at all. So it's almost like he just kind of brushed past it like, I'll let someone else hold it. But the way I look at it is, you're better because you didn't win the championship, so now you're like, I don't want it. Here's a new championship. So immediately after putting all those pieces together, the Okada puzzle together, I immediately am already not liking this concept. But I digress. I get into what this championship is supposed to be. And why is this so goddamn confusing? I had to write this all down because when I first heard it, and then I listened to it again, I was still confused on what the hell this was supposed to mean. And if I'm confused by a concept of a match or a championship or anything, it should be revised or it should not be used. Because if I'm confused, that means someone else is probably confused. That means a lot of people are confused. And I checked Twitter, and a lot of fucking people are confused by this concept. So I hope New Japan revises this, but here is the initial and hopefully the first and almost prototype concept of this championship. So basically Okada and the president of New Japan Pro Wrestling, or whoever that guy is, I kind of forgot his status in the company, basically they sat down for the press conference and they announced the first ever KOPW 2020 title. First of all, there is already a KOPW in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that is King of Pro Wrestling. You know, an actual show that New Japan does every single year. So right off the bat, I'm like, why did you name your championship after a pay-per-view? Unless this is a pay-per-view centered championship. I mean, okay, but we get into it further. I already don't like the name of this championship. So basically it goes, 8 wrestlers will be competing in 4 singles matches on August 26th, because New Japan is in the middle of their Summer Struggle tour. So that will be happening during the tour. And in each singles match, here's the caveat though, in each singles match, said wrestlers in the match will choose a stipulation that they want proposed for the match. And examples they use could be a cage match, a 2 out of 3 falls match, a no DQ match. Basically, each match leading into the finals of this said tournament is going to be a special stipulation. That sounds cool on paper, but then you think about it, and you think about the fact that New Japan Pro Wrestling doesn't do stipulation matches very often. New Japan Pro Wrestling is not a company that's based around, we're building to a bigger match that's going to have this stipulation. The matches are normally just standard singles matches. I mean, the only other time I can think of New Japan really ever doing a multi-man match to a magnitude of a triple threat or a fatal 4-way would have been Cody versus Kenny Omega versus Kota Ibushi in a triple threat match at King of Pro Wrestling 2018. And before that, Wrestle Kingdom 12, a fatal 4-way match between Hiromu Takahashi, Will Ospreay, Marty Scurll, and Kushida, which is one of my favorite multi-man matches of all time. However, even though I love triple threat and fatal 4-way matches, I've come to accept that New Japan Pro Wrestling is more traditional and they don't often do multi-man matches. So it's always a treat to see them, but I don't come to expect them very often. So when I heard the whole concept of them doing a fatal 4-way, I was pretty excited. Then I heard the concept of them doing special matches in order to get to that fatal 4-way, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. Because I then think about, when's the last time you've seen a cage match in New Japan? Has New Japan even ever had a cage match? I'm sure they've had a cage match before, but I don't think we've seen a cage match in New Japan in the last, like, 10 or 15 years. And we're talking about no DQ matches. They don't do no DQ matches very often. Now, mind you, I think every New Japan match is no DQ because the referee doesn't give a fuck about the rules. But that's not done very often either that we see weapons in New Japan. The concept of 2 out of 3 falls, that's reserved for bigger matches, like bigger high-stake matches are 2 out of 3 falls. So doing a 2 out of 3 falls to get to a fatal 4-way doesn't make any sense to me either. You think about the other matches that New Japan probably will never think of doing, like a ladder match. That doesn't make too much sense to me. That's even recommended here. A ladder match. When has New Japan done a ladder match in the last few years, aside from the Kenny Omega versus, Michael Elgin match, which wasn't even a ladder match. That was a match that just so happened to involve ladders in it. These matches that are reserved for high stakes are going to be blown off in a tournament to determine what New Japan is calling a provisional champion. Now, for those of you who doesn't have the most lavish vocabulary, because I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have an exquisite language, provisional basically is another word for interim. And if you guys watch the WWE for any length of time, you know that interim means temporary. So basically, the winner of this tournament is going to be a temporary holder of the KOPW 2020 title, which already sounds dumb because why are you holding a tournament to crown an interim champion? You should be holding a tournament to crown a final champion. Like, why would you want to compete in the tournament in the first place? They already established that the championship will be defended throughout the rest of the year. Mind you, by the time August 29th comes around the corner, we're already going to be in September, October, November, December. That championship's going to be defended for like 4 months. Mind you, I'm going to guess it's probably defended on the lighter shows to give the matches, the shows some weight. You're going to be defending this championship very often. Why is the person defending the title not the final champion? I don't get that. Then they go on to say, at the end of the year, with a stipulation once again decided on by the fans, this is by stipulation decided on by the fans, they will crown a final and decisive KOPW 2020 champion. And they will be awarded with a trophy. So what I'm gaining here is that this isn't even a championship. This is a tournament. This is a basically a short stint to get to a trophy. And then they go on to say that this championship title, trophy, whatever the hell it's supposed to be, will be done again in 2021. They don't say when. They don't say if it's going to be continuing in 2021. They just said the process will repeat in 2021, which does not really help me understand the concept of the title after 2020. So this leads me again. This is confusing. This also doesn't sound like it needed to happen. This also sounds like a waste of stipulations that you could be using to build up bigger matches. This also sounds like a complete and utter unnecessary addition to New Japan Pro Wrestling when you already have a championship that you're not actively using. So I add all this up and I'm saying, what is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of this championship other than to fill time? This KOPW title, which I hate calling it that because KOPW, in my opinion, stands for King of Pro Wrestling. This ultimately feels like we need something to do for other wrestlers leading into the end of the year where we can actually come up with them better things to do in 2021. So here's stuff for people to watch. I don't understand who this panders to aside from the American audience who's used to seeing these wacky stipulations, or a Japanese audience who's used to watching promotions like BJW and DDT. And I'm not trying to shit on people who like gimmicky wrestling because I like it here and there, but when you put it in New Japan Pro Wrestling, a promotion that isn't known for doing that, it leaves a sour taste in my mouth. It's like, different is better to an extent. Just because it's new and it's different doesn't mean that it's good. First of all, this wasn't wanted. Who asked for this? Nobody I know of asked for this convoluted extra championship. And another thing, what do we accomplish with this championship? This is why I'm sitting here, and the more I say this out loud, the more I already don't like it. Okada introduced this championship based solely off the fact that he doesn't like that there is a double champion. Solely based off the fact of that if he goes after the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, he has to trudge the IC with him, and he doesn't want that. So he went and created a super extra convoluted, confusing ass championship. For who? Who is this championship made for? When I hear this championship, I hear the concept, the only person I think of that could honestly go for this championship and it will make sense is Toru Yano. Toru Yano is the only person I really think this championship is made for. And when Toru Yano is the base of the championship, this championship is not taken seriously. I'm sorry, this is on the level of the 24/7 championship in WWE, in my opinion. And I'm not going to write it off completely because we haven't seen it come into fruition yet. But automatically, first impressions are bad, in my opinion. I'm not a big fan of this title, this trophy, whatever it is. It wasn't needed, it wasn't wanted, and I don't understand why it's happening. This, in my opinion, should be called the Cyber Sunday Championship. Because you're having fans decide the stipulation for a match, and then ultimately, this is building to what? Nothing. So yeah, the Cyber Sunday Championship is the new name of this title. But yeah, that was Okada ruining New Japan Pro Wrestling Part 15. What did you guys think? Comment down below, let your boy know. What do you think about the KOPW 2020 title? I don't like it. I don't like it, but I'm not going to write it off just yet because we haven't seen it go into fruition just yet. However, if this is a championship that I feel like is going to start ruining New Japan Pro Wrestling, I'm going to have some big questions. That being said, I love you guys, and I will talk to you all later. Peace out, guys.